Ruby Franke update. Today was a big day in the Ruby Franke case. She had two different hearings scheduled. She had a hearing scheduled for her criminal case and a hearing scheduled in the juvenile case. Remember, there's two different kind of parallel jurisdictional things happening. There are criminal charges, 6 counts of felony child abuse, where the state is bringing felony charges against Ruby and Jody for their abuse of the 2 youngest children. And then there's juvenile court, which is DCFS has taken custody of the children and placed them in state care, not with family members. And Kevin is trying to get the kids placed with him. Let's talk about what happened in these 2 hearings. My name is Billy Tarasio. I'm an Arizona family law attorney. I usually talk about family law and divorce, which includes juvenile court issues. But I have been interested in the Ruby Franke case, and so we're also talking about that. If either of those things are interesting, you can follow me. So the 2 hearings that were supposed to take place today, in the criminal hearing, the judge was going to discuss whether or not Jody and Ruby would be let out on bail. So generally, in our criminal system, you're innocent until proven guilty, which means you really shouldn't be held in jail. You should be allowed to go home if you can post bail. But sometimes bail's offered and sometimes it isn't. But today, both sides filed a stipulated motion to continue the hearing. It's been pushed out to October 18th, and that means Jody and Ruby will sit in jail at least until October 18th. The reason they filed this stipulated motion, meaning the state and the defense attorneys both agreed, is because of the copious amounts of discovery, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me personally. Not a criminal lawyer, but couldn't you look at the copious amounts of discovery while they're out on bail? So it's an interesting move, especially because it looked like the public safety assessment was recommending bail for Ruby. What that means is that she would have to post a bond, post some money, and then she'd be able to go home and be monitored with ankle monitoring or something pending trial. But nope, she is sitting tight. Now let's talk about what happened at the juvenile court hearing. So today's hearing, a child welfare hearing, was about, again, the ongoing placement of the children. Kevin and his lawyer were there, and so was Sherry, the oldest daughter. Now Kevin is trying to have the children placed with him or a family member. His lawyer did speak with the press following the hearing, but the hearing was closed to the public. One of the things they talked about in the juvenile court hearing was whether or not to seal the proceedings. So normally, legal proceedings are open to the public, but different courts have different policies about how open. As we saw in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, cameras in the courtroom isn't always the case, but usually hearings are open. Now, many times juvenile court is sealed to the public because the subject matter is minors and they have a privacy interest and a right to privacy. But the juvenile court judge made a comment about wanting to maintain transparency, which indicates to me at least that perhaps they will not be sealing this case and it will be open to the public. No immediate changes were made to the placement of the children, and a further status hearing was set also out to October. Kevin's lawyer made another comment about discussions having to do with the children, and the implication to me was that there was discussions about these allegations of sex abuse. And of course, there is a lot of thoughts and speculation and controversy over whether or not that's real or all made up by Ruby. But of course, those discussions regarding the 12-year-old boy are super sensitive and also complicating. It's complicating because they don't want to place a child who's been accused of sexual abuse with other children, which is going to prevent some reunification to a certain extent, and just adds a level of complexity. They probably need to do an assessment. As we know, the state does not move quickly.